like difficult, easier?
It was okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
couldn't
it
say
was
because.
like that.
Perdón, a ver, de uno.
Sorry,
¿Cómo,
you
Silvia?
go ahead.
I wanted to say that we had enough time to
Bien.
check, so that was great.
Bien, but what about the content, the words?
Yes, it was all things that we were dealing with during that
Claro.
period, and no something else that was out of.
No, of course not. I will never give you
No.
anything that we don't see in class.
Of course.
I've been preparing some material, yes, with a key I might be sending you, but we are going to start practicing in class as well to vary between, the theory and the practice. See, otherwise, I think it gets boring to do theory all the time. See, so you will have practice on your own with a key. We will practice in class so you can clarify all your doubts, and we have to keep on working with the theory. But I think at the beginning it was theory because you need to get some points, some key terms, yes, which are typical of the subject, I don't know, subject, verb, complement, determiners. Those are key words you need to understand to practice. I think you are ready, yes, now to mix mix theory and practice. Bien, chicos, questions, doubts?
Teacher, I wanted to ask if you could correct my exam.
Oriana, I will correct yours when I correct these ones.
Okay.
¿Sí? Bien. Questions, doubts? No? So let's start with pronouns. I don't remember what topic we dealt with last class.
We deal with until demonstrative pronouns.
Entonces, we dealt with central, personal, reflexive, and possessive. Relative, reciprocal, and demonstrative.
Relative, we have to deal today.
Bien, entonces, what do we have to deal with today? Relative and interrogative.
And indefinites.
Bien, entonces, Did we deal with interrogative pronouns? Sí.
Yes.
Interrogative, demonstrative, reciprocal, and central. Perfecto. So we have to finish with specific relative pronouns, and then we start with indefinite. Sí, perfecto, bárbaro. Bien, chicos. So let's start with relative. Relative pronouns. They are classified into the WH pronouns, who, whom, whose, which, and that and zero. A relative pronoun introduces a relative clause. Remember relative clause? What's the function of a relative clause?
To add information.
Bien, that is semantics, but syntactically speaking, what's the function of a relative clause?
Is the complement of the subject.
No.
It's a post modifier.
Sí, post modifier of a noun. So, a relative clause has a function at phrase level. Post modifier of a noun in a noun phrase. Entonces, a relative pronoun introduces a relative clause. The relative clause functions as post modifier of the noun, which is the antecedent. Therefore, it has a function at phrase level. Remember, there are two types of relative clauses, defining, non-defining. You're going to see relative clauses in grammar 2. In grammar 1, we are going to focus on the relative pronoun. So, as I said before, a relative pronoun introduces a relative clause. A relative pronoun has a function in the clause. The function can be independent, as subject, object, or complement, or it can be determiner. There is only one relative pronoun that functions as determiner. Which one is it? Whose? Whose functions as determiner. Why? Because it's followed by a noun. The house whose roof was damaged by the fire has been repaired. The house whose roof has been damaged. No, notice that whose is followed by a noun. Therefore, the function is determiner. All the others, who, whom, which, that, or zero, may function as subject, object, or complement, depending on how they are used in the relative clause. Bien, features. Notice that who, whom have personal reference. O sea, they refer to people. Therefore, they are marked for gender. They have personal reference. Which has non-personal reference. Why? Because it refers to an object, an animal, and that and zero are not marked for gender. So, why is it important for you to know this? Suppose that a noun phrase has two nouns as heads. Two nouns joined by a coordinating conjunction and. One head is, or it has personal reference, the other has non-personal reference. I know, the man and the dog. And you need to use a relative clause. Now, which pronoun are you going to use? You can use that. Why? Because that is not marked for gender. See? That is one rule. Then there is another rule, which is the rule of proximity. Have you read anything about the rule of proximity?
Yes, it depends on which of the nouns is more near to the thing that we are going to refer to. For example, if I'm going to say the man and the dog, puedo decir the man and the dog who.
No, al revés, the man and the dog
which, claro, como está más cerca, digamos, del objeto, puedo usar el which, como está más cerca de la persona, el who.
Tal cual, exacto. So that is the rule of proximity. In this case, if I say the dog, the man and the dog is nearer, as Ludmila said, the relative clause, so I can use the relative pronoun which. And if I say the dog and the man who were walking along the street, why who? Because it's nearer to a noun with personal reference. But if you want to avoid this, yes, to avoid confusion, you can use the pronoun that. Why? Because it's not marked for gender. Bien. So they are marked, who, whom, personal reference, which, non-personal, that and zero are not marked for gender. We are going to see what happens with whose. Bien, después they are marked for case. Whose is in what case?
Genitive case.
Genitive case, muy bien. And then the others can be subjective or objective, depending on the function they have in the clause. So if I say the woman who is over there, what's the function of who in the clause?
Subjective.
Tal cual, because it functions as subject. But if I say the woman who you called last night.
Objective.
Tal cual, because the function is object.
It has a reference or is connected with what we said before, according to the post modifier of the noun phrase, because it's part of the subject, it's part of the noun phrase as post modifier. So then we are going to see who is the function of which is the function of this noun phrase within the sentence as an example, and there you are going to decide which kind of case has the relative pronoun.
Perfecto, muy bien. ¿Sí? Ahí está. If you are in doubt as regards the function of the relative pronoun, I suggest that you turn the relative pronoun into a sentence, as Mila said, and replace the pronoun with the noun, because the noun is substituted by the pronoun in the relative clause. So if I say the woman that I talked or that I called last night, how it was, no sé, from Ireland. Take the relative clause, that I called last night. This relative pronoun replaces the woman, the antecedent in the relative clause. Now, how would you turn this into a sentence? But now use the noun woman instead of the relative pronoun? ¿Cómo lo harían? The woman that I called last night was from Ireland. Take the relative clause and turn it into a sentence.
I would change it to zero.
Sorry?
I would change it to zero, the woman I called last night.
No, but that is still a relative clause.
Oh, okay, I have to change it, okay.
Into a sentence, subject, verb, and what follows. What is the subject?
I called a woman last night.
I called the woman last night. What's the function of the woman in that sentence? Object. So what's the if we know that the relative pronoun replaces the noun in the relative clause, what's the function of that in that clause? Object as well. Are you familiar with these exercises in which there are two sentences? You have to join them by using a relative clause. The woman is from Ireland. She is my neighbor. The woman who is from Ireland is my neighbor. Are you familiar? Bueno, ahí está. Notice that the relative pronoun replaces the noun, the head, the antecedent in the relative clause. So that will help you to see the function of the relative pronoun. Why? Because as I said before, the relative pronoun introduces the relative clause. That means that the relative pronouns will always be at the beginning of the relative clause. But that doesn't mean that the function is always subject. Ojo ahí, because most students tend to associate this question of the relative pronoun at the beginning of the relative clause, so the function is subject. Why? Because the subject is before the verb. No. The relative pronoun can function as object, like in the example I gave you before, and yet it's at the beginning of the relative clause. Why? Because the relative clause is always introduced by a relative pronoun. ¿Sí? Bien. A ver. This question of restrictive, non-restrictive relative clauses, I mean, we're not going to see or deal with restrictive, non-restrictive relative clauses because that is grammar 2. So let's move on to WH pronouns, that and zero. As I said before, there are two series, the WH pronouns and the that and zero. See? Well, we discussed the gender and number and person contrast, gender. Now, notice that whose can have both personal and non-personal reference. See why? Because once again, we think that whose can only be used with personal reference. But look at the example. The house whose roof was damaged has now been repaired. See, so it has non-personal reference. Of course, you can, if you think it's weird to use whose for non-personal nouns, you can replace it by of which. The house of which the roof, or the house, the roof of which was damaged, Bien. Now, let's have a look at the difference between who and whom. Why? Because some students think that the only difference between who and whom is connected with register. And yes, we can say that who might be more informal than whom, but there is another difference between who and whom. And that has to do with the function of the relative pronoun in the relative clause. No? A ver, who can function as subject, an object. The woman who is over there is my sister. Who is over there? Who subject? The woman who you talked to, or pardon, the woman who you called last night is my sister. Who is object? No? Whom can only function as object, not subject. That is one difference. Whom does not function as a subject. It only functions as object. The woman whom you called last night is my sister. Notice that whom functions as functions as object, not subject. That is one difference. Another difference has to do with prepositions. Why? Because both who and whom can function as complement to the preposition. The difference is when you place the preposition before the pronoun, the only choice available is whom.
Yes, because it's like which. You can say, for example, the house in which I live, or I can say, for example, the person in whom I trust, for example.
Tal cual.
So here there is a difference. And when we use the preposition after the relative pronoun, we can use who, for example.
Exacto, tal cual, muy bien. When the preposition is placed before the relative pronoun, the only choice available is whom. O sea, the man to whom you spoke is from Ireland. See? Now, if you place the preposition at the end of the relative clause, you can use both, who or whom. Entonces, the woman whom you talk to, or the woman who you talk to. Now, this process of placing the preposition at the end of the relative clause is called deferred preposition or stranded preposition. So the same happens with interrogative pronouns. Have we dealt with interrogative pronouns?
Yes.
See? Bueno, remember did we discuss this? That with what and which, the preposition can be stranded, that is to say, placed at the end. What are you looking at? Or it can be placed before the interrogative pronoun, what or which. At what are you looking? Only with what and which. See? And whom, perdón. Questions, doubts? No? Now, the last thing. We said that there is a relative pronoun which is the zero pronoun. What does that mean? What is the zero pronoun?
That in some cases we can omit the relative pronoun because it's not necessary, but we can only omit the relative pronoun, not the relative clause.
Tal cual, exacto.
Together. That's an important thing because in some cases people think that it's not necessary the relative clause because it is a non-defining and they omit it, but no, we can only omit the relative pronoun.
Perfecto, muy bien, Ludmila. And when can we omit the relative pronoun? Always. No, when? When the function is object.
Object of the sentence.
Or prepositional complement in some cases. As the example I gave you before. The woman I called last night is my friend. Notice that in that case, I omitted the relative pronoun. I could have used that or who or whom, but I omitted the relative pronoun because the function is object. So I can use I can omit the relative pronoun and use the zero relative pronoun instead. Otra cosita, as I said before, as I mentioned before, sí, tal cual. If the function is object, you can omit the relative pronoun. Pero ojo, it's not that there is no relative pronoun. There is one, the zero relative pronoun. This zero relative pronoun has a function.
It's the
object.
same that happens with zero article. There is a determiner there, but there is no article.
Exacto, tal cual, bárbaro. Sí, sí. Perdón, when the function is object and complement. See, for example, the man you talk to. Notice that I omitted the relative pronoun because the function is complement to the preposition. The last thing, at the beginning, I mentioned that there are two types of relative clauses, defining, non-defining. Can we use all the relative pronouns in the defining and non-defining relative clauses? ¿Qué les parece? That, which, who, whom, whose, zero. Can all the relative pronouns be used in all the relative clauses? No, tal cual. No, muy bien. We cannot use that in a non-defining relative clause. A ver, in general terms, see, a defining relative clause adds essential information. It cannot be omitted. A dog is an animal that has 4 legs, a tail, and barks, for example. Notice that that is a relative clause that subordinates finite, defining relative clause. The function is post modifier of the antecedent. And notice that I cannot omit it. Why? Because it adds essential information about the antecedent. It restricts the meaning. That's why it's restrictive. Non-defining or non-restrictive add extra information. The woman who is over there is my sister or is my best friend. Notice that I can omit this non-defining and the sentence, the meaning is clear. And remember that non-defining relative clauses are written in commas and you cannot use that. So the woman who is over there, I cannot say the woman that is over there. Bien. No, porque it's not an adverbial, Pedro. Ojo ahí. What do you mean by adverbial?
No, I mean it's like the same feature. It could be there and it couldn't. You could say it or you don't say it. It's optional.
Claro, sí, sí,
In
entiendo.
the meaning of optional, not adverbial, but in the meaning
Claro,
of optional.
yo entiendo. This question of optional adverbial that can be there or not in the sentence.
Yeah.
And a non-defining relative clause can be there or not. O sea, sí, ahí entiendo. Ahí, si lo ves así, sí.
Okay.
Bien. Questions, doubts? No? Bien, chicos, let's move on now to indefinite pronouns. Sorry, I'm moving to your drive, the one you've been using. Can I write something here? Because I want to make a correction.
Yes,
A ver, and then if you want, you can change it. You can modify it. But because I was looking at the drive, yes, you're working really, really well. In the mind map that says subclasses of pronouns. See, I will share it. No. Okay. Have you finished writing the theory for pronouns? No. Okay. Bien, chicos. But you're working really well. So, can you see the mind map?
Yes.
Bien, notice pronouns. Specific reference, muy bien. They are central and they are subdivided. See, reciprocal, relative, interrogative, and demonstrative, interrogative, reciprocal. Bien, we finished this part, specific. See, now we are going to start with non-specific. We are going to, I'm going to modify this part, this non-specific reference. See? Can I do it in your drive? And then if you want, you can modify it?
Yeah, no problem.
Bien. The first part, the specific one, is correct. Acá. A ver, después, ¿cómo vamos a hacer? Non-specific, why? Because we have to make this distinction between specific and non-specific. Non-specific pronouns are subdivided into numeral, and numeral can be ordinal or cardinal. Ordinal numbers can be, espera que me quedo sin lugar. Ordinal numbers can be general, for example, first, second, third, blah, blah, blah. Perdón, no, esos son numerical. numerical, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and they can be general. Which are they? Next, last, other, and another. These are the, the general pronouns, only those four. Entonces, non-specific. The first category, numeral, pardon. Numerals are divided into ordinal and cardinal. Ordinal are numerical, first, second, third, fourth, and general. Next, last, other, and another. Well, cardinal, we know. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hmm? Ah. And then another group, indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are subdivided into quantifiers, universal, and universal are divided into positive and negative, and they can also be partitive. Partitive can be assertive or non-assertive. ¿Sí? Ahí está. Entonces, I repeat, non-specific pronouns are divided into two groups, numeral and indefinite pronouns. Numerals are subdivided into two groups, ordinal and cardinal. Ordinal are subdivided into two groups, numerical and general. Indefinite pronouns are subdivided into three groups, quantifiers, universal and partitive. Universal are subdivided into positive and negative. Partitive are subdivided into assertive and non-assertive. See? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Bien. Bien, chicos. Now we are going to start with non-specific. A ver, as regards the first part, numerical, ordinal, candidate, we are not going to discuss much. I assume that you know what, you know numbers. We are going to focus on the meaning of the number one, for example, the difference between one, another, last, see, but we are not going to see in detail as we did so with specific pronouns. The same happens with quantifiers. I assume that you know what quantifiers are. We might see some difference in meaning between few and a few, little, a little, but not that much. Remember, we focus on the features, number, person, gender, case, the function can be independent, subject, object, complement, or determiner, see? But we are not going to add much. And if you want to say something as regards, no say, numeral, ordinal, numerical, you are more than welcome, but otherwise, see, you read it on your own.
Okay, I have a question.
Dale.
When you refer to non-specific, it is what the book said as indefined pronouns.
¿Cómo, perdón?
When you refer to non-specific pronouns,
Mhm.
is what the book called indefined pronouns.
Tal cual, todo eso, all that part, Ludmila.
Okay.
Sí, o sea, a ver, déjame ver.
Fine.
Cuando. Sí, los universal, assertive, non-assertive, numerals, todo eso. Perdón, someone wrote something in the chart. A ver. No, Juan Pedro. A ver, in the test, you will have all the pronouns. A ver, remember, for example, when we dealt with nouns, Remember, I told you to read partitive constructions and foreign plurals on your own. Y perdón, the rules for variable regular nouns. Sí, o sea, a ver, as regards the partitive constructions and the rules for variable regulars, I asked you to read those on your own because I assume that you should know it. But that doesn't mean that that it cannot be included in a test or in a final exam. Why? Because that is part of the program. Sí, eso por un lado. Another different thing is a topic we are not going to discuss because it's not part of the program or because we don't have much time. See, and in that case, of course, I won't test it. ¿Sí? O sea, hagamos una división entre lo que es parte del programa, pero por cuestión de tiempo no lo llegamos a dar, o a veces no por cuestión de tiempo, también por una cuestión obvia de que, a ver, si llegaron hasta acá, asumo que saben lo que es un quantifier, o asumo cómo formar la regla del variable regular, ¿no? Cuando termine en O, en Y, y si no, vayan a Quark o a cualquiera de los libros que yo subí y empiecen a familiarizarse con ese tema. Pero ese tema es parte de la planificación, o sea, yo eso te lo puedo tomar en un examen. Distinto es cuando, por ejemplo, acá en lo de relative clauses, yo que dije relative clauses es grammar 2. Hice, pero apenas un comentario de las defining, non-defining, las características de cada uno, pero yo eso no te lo voy a tomar. ¿Se entiende? No, no es para nada difícil. No, y aparte es práctica. Después cuando ya lo veamos van a ver que no, esta parte no es para nada difícil. Bien, chicos, questions, doubts? No? So let's start with non-specific, indefinite pronouns. We are going to focus mainly on universal, positive, negative, and partitive, assertive, non-assertive. See? Do you have if you go to page 377, there is like a chart. No? Bueno, I suggest that you take that chart as a guide, but only to see what, for example, universal positive pronouns are. Ojo ahí, because notice that Quirk mixes things up sometimes. Entonces, por ejemplo, universal positive are the pronouns which start with every, each, all, and both. Universal positive, they have positive meaning. Entonces, all, both, every, and each. Universal negative are no, none, neither. And the compound pronouns we are going to see now. Después los partitive, assertive, the some, o sea, some, the pronoun some, and the compound pronouns with some. Someone, somebody, and something. Y los non-assertive son any and either. Are you there? ¿Lo encontraron?
Where are the positives?
¿Cómo?
Which ones are the positive ones?
All, both, every, and each. Exacto, page 377. Take this as a guide, see, to see where to place each pronoun. But remember to use this new mind map. Porque ahí es donde Quark la mezcla. Bien. Vamos por parte. Notice, this is the new mind map. This is how we are going to analyze pronouns, these non-specific pronouns. Quark subdivides these pronouns into two groups, the compound pronouns and the of series. Have you read that?
Yes.
Sí, bien. What are the compound pronouns?
He mixed the things a little bit, but he used like logical one when we said that, because compound is referring to like the compound of two pronouns. For example, if I say everyone, if I say anyone, so has a logical explanation.
Sí, tal cual.
And well, then describe the other ones that are like.
See, but do you know why it's confusing? Because then students don't know if they should analyze it by following this chart or by saying that they are compound or of series. Yeah. Ahí es donde se crea la confusión. Por eso, when we analyze these non-specific pronouns, we are going to follow the chart. Then we will see. But notice that Quirk makes a distinction between compound pronouns and the of series. As Ludmila said, the compound pronouns are the pronouns that start with every, some, any, and combine with the suffix one, body, and thing. Someone, somebody, something. Anyone, anybody, anything. Everyone, everybody, everything. Those are the compound pronouns because they consist of two morphemes, let's say. See? As regards features, they are marked for gender, personal, the ones that end with one and body, and non-personal, the ones that end with thing. And they are marked for number. Do they have singular or plural number? ¿Qué les parece?
Plural.
No, they have singular number.
Which ones?
They are always
in the book
singular.
it says that they are marked as singular, but although they refer to a group of people.
Tal
Yes,
cual,
and
Aldana,
also
muy bien. Ahí
They
estamos.
use
For
a
example,
singular verb.
sí, tal cual. A ver, if I say everyone came to my party, we assume that there is at least two people. A ver, we assume that this everyone has plural meaning, semantically speaking. Yet, syntactically speaking, these compound pronouns are singular in form. Why? Because they are indefinite. We don't know if it's, the exact number. That, of course, affects the choice of verb and the choice of auxiliary. Now, what about the choice of pronouns? ¿Qué les parece con la elección del pronombre? He, she, or they? Everyone came to my party.
They.
Tal cual, Andrew, they. See, to avoid sexism, exactly because we don't know, perhaps it was 3 girls. To avoid saying he or she or he, we use the neutral form they. Bien. Esperen que estoy... Bueno. A ver, ¿qué más? Indefinite pronoun, where they are marked for number, person. They can be used in the genitive case. See, I can use this compound pronoun with case, and I can say that is someone's bag. Someone's car is parked outside. Notice that they are marked for case. And they can be post-modified by the adverb else, someone else. Now, what if I want to use the structure someone else, for example, in the genitive form? ¿Qué les parece?
The genitive is in the word else, not in the
Exacto,
pronoun.
muy bien. The suffix, the inflectional suffix showing case is attached to the post-modifier else. Someone else's car is over there. It's blocking my way. Ahí está. ¿Sí? Bien. ¿Qué más? ¿Algo más que quieran agregar?
Also, the use of the of pronoun with them, for example.
Sí, ahora vamos a eso, Ludmila. Aguantame que quiero ver si hay algo más. Sí, lo último. These compound pronouns can be post-modified by a relative clause. Someone I love. See, notice, what is someone I loved? What is this I loved?
In general, someone.
Sí, pero ¿qué estructura es? Someone I loved. A ver. Pongan una palabra ahí. Between someone and I.
It is a defining clause
Tal cual,
because I can say
it's a relative
someone that
clause.
I love.
Exacto, it's a relative clause. Miren, ahí está
Zero relative clause.
tal cual, es lo que vimos recién. Someone I love. There is a zero pronoun introducing a relative clause, defining. Notice that the pronoun functions as object. I love someone.
Yes, another thing that is important to take into consideration as regards to the compound pronouns is that they cannot be pre-modified with adjectives.
Tal
They
cual.
can only, we can make this modification, but we can add adjectives after these pronouns. For example, if I say somebody very tall, that it's
Tal
the
cual.
opposite, for example, to nouns that we use the adjective before it.
Tal cual, o sea, muy bien. They cannot be pre-modified, but they can be post-modified. Perfecto, muy bien. Bárbaro. ¿Algo más, chicos, para agregar de los indefinite, de los compounds? Esperen que estoy ordenando acá que se me... aguanten un minutito, ¿sí? Porque se me cayeron las páginas. Bien. Vamos ahora a los of pronoun. Why are they called of pronouns or of series? A ver, ¿qué les parece?
Because they are followed by of.
Of what? Only of?
Of and something else, of construction, of phrase.
Of construction, tal cual. That is to say, a prepositional phrase introduced by the preposition of, and of course we need a complement. ¿Sí? Y acá, perdón, voy a usar de nuevo su drive, ¿sí? Para que quede bien claro. Remember that at the very beginning, we said that some pronouns only have independent function. For example, specific central, personal, and reflexive pronouns. I, you, he, myself, him. See? Other pronouns only have determiner function. For example, possessive possessive pronouns, my, your, his, her. The others, mine, yours, his, independent. Then we said there are some pronouns which may have both determiner or independent, depending on how they are used. That is all, independent as subject. That car is mine. That is determiner. ¿Sí? Bien, ¿qué pasa con estos pronouns? They can have determiner function. For example, if I say some students were present today, notice that in this case, some has determiner function. Why? Because it's followed by a noun. No?
Yes.
Suppose we are talking about the students. Yes, it's assumed from the linguistic context that we are talking about some students. So I can omit the head and I can say, yes, you know, some were present this morning. Entonces, what's the function of some in this case?
Independent, because we don't have a noun.
Independent as subject. Now, what if I use some in an of construction? Some of the students were present. A ver, today.
It's a determiner there.
Determiner or independent? ¿Qué les parece? Choose one and justify your choice according to the theory, no? Who thinks it has determiner function and why?
I think it's determined because it's modifying the students and it's in the part of the subject, but I'm not sure actually.
Okay, well, according to Aldana, it is determiner because, pardon, you say it's modifying the subject.
Yeah, because it's referring to the students that are the subject of the sentence.
Bien, do you agree?
To be honest, I don't understand.
No, you don't, Pedro? Okay, don't worry. Any other guess? Option? Choice? In fact, when the pronoun is followed by an of construction, the function is independent. Independent as subject, object, or complement. That will depend on how it's used in the sentence or phrase. Why? Look, if we take this, we are going to say that this is a phrase. This is a noun phrase. No? The function is Subject. Now, which is the head of this phrase? Which is the most important word?
Some.
Some. O sea, the rest, the of construction, can be omitted. So some is the head of the student, is a prepositional phrase, and the function is post modifier. Entonces, ¿cuál va a ser la función when the pronoun is followed by an of construction independent? Subject, object, or complement, but the function is independent. Why not determiner? Because it's not followed by any nouns, like in the first case, some students. In any case, it's followed by an of construction, o sea, a prepositional phrase functioning as post modifier. Vamos a le voy a poner bien acá el análisis para que les quede. O sea, if I had to analyze this phrase, I will say that some, vamos a hacer así, some is the noun, noun, pardon, is a, see, or the pronoun, and it's the head, and of the student is a prepositional phrase, and the function is post modifier. But it's not determiner. See, the of construction is not determiner, it's post modifier. So therefore, notice that some does not function as determiner. It has independent function. ¿Se entiende, chicos?
Yes.
Yes.
¿Sí? Entonces, when any of these pronouns have or are followed by an of construction, the function is independent. Subject, object, complement. That will depend on how it's used. I called some of the students. Some of the students independent as objects. ¿Sí?
Yes.
Bien. A ver, ¿algo más para decir de los of pronouns? Bueno, they can be used as substitutes for noun phrases. That is a common feature of pronoun, let's say, right?
Yes.
Bien, sorry. As I said before, these are called of pronouns because they can be followed by an of construction. Can all the pronouns, all these of pronouns be followed by an of construction? ¿Qué les parece?
I saw one in the chart that was ones. It doesn't have an of.
Ones in the plural form or marked for genitive case?
No, plural form.
Bueno, pero eso, Pedro, está en la parte de numerals. Eso lo vamos a ver. Vamos a ver los meanings del one, ¿sí? Ese por ahora lo dejamos ahí aparte. Estamos ahora en lo otro, en lo que son universal, positive, negative, partitive, assertive, non-assertive, ¿sí? Do you think that all the pronouns, if you want, you can take as the page 377 as a guide?
Yes, for me, we can, with all of them, use the of construction.
Perfect. With all, with both, with some, with any. What about the pronoun no? Can we use the pronoun no in an of construction?
No.
It has to be none.
Exacto. So the pronoun no cannot be used in an of construction. See, I have no money. See, notice that it's followed by a noun, so the function is determiner, but it cannot be used in an of construction. And what happens with the pronoun every? Can I use it in an of construction?
No, but you can use everyone or everybody.
A ver, ahí vamos a hacer una corrección. Yes, you can. You can use the pronoun every in an of construction. The thing is that you have to make some changes. Why? What is the of construction for every? Every one of.
Yes, we have to add like something else. We cannot use it directly. If I say, for example, every of, no, everyone.
Exacto. We cannot say every of the students. No. Vamos a decir everyone of the students, were present yesterday. Oh. ¿Sí?
And also, it's important to know that not always the preposition of is necessary. For example, if I want to say uh, all of the boys want to become football players, or if I say all the boys want to become football players.
Tal cual, muy bien, Ludmila, y a eso me da paso. A ver, notice that semantically speaking, there is no difference in meaning between all of the boys wanted to become football player and all the boys wanted to become football player. There is no difference in meaning. The difference lies in syntax because the function will change. If I say all of the boys, that is a noun phrase and the function is independent of as subject. But if I say all the boys, that is also a noun phrase. But which is ahead? Boys. And all has determiner function. Fíjense
Yes.
cómo cambia.
Change
Omitiendo
completely
claro,
the
omitiendo una preposición te cambia la función del all. If I say all of the students, that is a noun phrase, function, independent as subject. All is the head of that phrase. But if I say all the boys, that is also a noun phrase functioning as subject, but now the head is boy and all has determiner function. ¿Mm? ¿Me siguen, chicos?
yes, yes.
Bien. Tendríamos que empezar ahora con los pronouns en sí. Ya entraríamos ya con los universal positive, la diferencia entre all, both, every and each, los assertive and non-assertive. Bien, lo vamos a dejar para la clase que viene, así salimos un poco de la teoría y vamos a hacer algo de práctica. ¿Mm? Do you have the test? A ver si yo se los puedo compartir. Vamos a usar el test.
El test. No,
Sí, el de ayer.
You mean the file of the text?
Sí, tal cual.
Yeah.
The test we did, the soccer, era ese, ¿no?
Argentinian.
Sí.
Yes.
Perfecto, let's do some practice. ¿Mm? Para. Bueno, vamos a ver. Bien, vamos a hacer
Teacher, I
sí.
pasted a doc. If you want to use it, it has the test on it.
Perdón.
I pasted a doc in the chat that it has the test on it if you want to use it.
A ver. Bien, can you all see it? ¿Todos lo pueden ver?
Yes.
Yes.
Bueno, entonces vamos a hacer algo de práctica, ¿sí? No. Vamos a ya empezar a usar pronouns, articles. Vayan viendo, ¿eh? Miren que los estoy marcando. Bueno, vamos a empezar con esto, ¿sí? Bien, chicos, a ver, how are we going to analyze pronouns? Form and function. See, you have to follow the chart. See? Form and function. Let's take those. What about those? Form. Specific or non-specific?
Sorry, we are still watching the dog, the pronouns dog.
¿Cómo, perdón?
We
Yeah,
are
you're
watching
sharing the screen of the other document.
Ah, es verdad, para que lo tengo que sacar. Y ahora comparto. Bien, esperen que ya comparto.
I'm not sure, but is those specific demonstrative?
Sí, aguanta. Espera. Ah, no, no, este no. Ay. Esperen porque no sé. Test. Salgo. Aguántame, Pedro, así lo hacemos todos juntos.
Yeah, no problem.
Ahí está. Can you see it?
Yeah, now we can.
Bueno,
Yes.
let's
Yes.
analyze the first pronoun, those together, so you see how to analyze pronouns. Remember, form, function, and then features, if any. What about those? Where those clubs, stadiums are separated by a single city block. Those, form.
Specific.
See, specific,
Demonstrative.
demonstrative, article,
Pronoun.
pronoun. Ahí está, that is form, function.
Determinant.
Determiner plus what?
Plus
If
the
it's
noun.
determinate, the noun, which is the noun?
The noun is common,
Mhm.
countable, concrete, noun,
See, which is the noun?
clubs.
No, stadiums.
Ah, stadium.
Porque clubs is another noun premodifying the noun. Entonces, bien, features. Number, person, gender, or case. Number,
Plural.
plural. Muy bien. ¿Algún otro feature? ¿Qué les parece? Gender, case.
No.
No. See, no other feature.
Right.
See? Bien, chicos. Now you have to analyze the pronoun it, two articles, the, and a noun clubs. So start analyzing the words now, and if we have time, we are going to check at least one. If not, you have to do it for homework for next week. Hmm?
The ones that are highlighted, sorry, I
See,
couldn't hear.
the ones which are highlighted in orange now. And
Okay.
now I add some more. Bien, chicos, can we check at least the first?
Yes.
A ver, who wants to take it?
I can do it.
Dale,
Article, right? Yeah.
dale.
Definite article with specific endophoric reference logical use.
Sí.
And the function is the plus superlative structure.
Perfecto, muy bien, bárbaro. It, did you do it?
I did it, but I don't know the function.
Bueno, a ver, ¿y alguien más lo ha hecho? Así le damos la oportunidad a otros.
I did it.
A ver, dale, Ludmila.
According to the form, it is a specific personal pronoun. According to the function, it is a...
Pará, porque ahí faltó, ¿eh? Specific, central.
Central. Yes.
Specific, central, personal pronoun.
Personal pronoun. And the function is a subject.
Tal cual, independent, a subject. Bien. ¿Algo más, Ludmila?
No.
¿No? What about features? Person, number, gender, case. And in this... ¿Cómo?
I forget it.
Bueno, no importa, pero es con la práctica donde se va viendo todo esto y sí, se va aprendiendo. Ven que yo... Features. Person.
No.
Bueno, pero acá faltaría los features, person, gender, person, number, gender y case, y el meaning. ¿Se acuerdan cuando vimos los meanings? Delete, referring, empty y el otro que era el anticipatory. Bien, chicos, para la clase que viene, fíjense en que yo ahí en este mismo documento marqué palabritas en verde. Ahí ya hay pronombres, artículos y creo que marqué un sustantivo. Es lo que venimos viendo hasta ahora. Y fíjense en que resalté en celeste oraciones. Sí, que creo que son 4. Si mal no recuerdo, sí. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 oraciones. Entonces, ¿qué van a hacer? Lo van a hacer primero por su cuenta y después lo vuelcan al Drive. O sea, quiero lo que hayan hecho en el Drive. Vuelvo a lo mismo. Si Ludmila analizó el sustantivo clubs, no lo vuelvan a analizar. O sea, yo no quiero 23 análisis de la misma palabra, a menos que alguien haya hecho algo distinto. ¿Sí? Ahí sí, porque si no, el drive va a ser interminable y no vamos a avanzar nunca. No sé, ¿se pondrán de acuerdo entre ustedes? O el first come, first serve, no sé. La cosa es que para la próxima clase eso ahí tiene que estar resuelto, primero lo hacen por su cuenta y después en el Drive. Si ustedes se ponen, no sé, yo les puedo decir a partir del martes lo empiezan a poner en el Drive, pero el martes no llegaron, bueno, el miércoles, yo tampoco me voy a meter en eso. La cosa es que para nuestra próxima clase yo abro este Drive y tiene que estar todas las respuestas abajo. Si no, no se practica más. Porque de ahora en más vamos a empezar a hacer eso. hacemos una parte de teoría, como hicimos hoy, pasamos a la práctica. La práctica la tienen que hacer en casa y acá la vamos viendo, la vamos resolviendo, vamos aclarando dudas. Si sobran unos minutos, bueno, podemos hacer algo acá en clase como para debatir, pero la idea es que ustedes lo hagan en casa, ¿sí? Usen sus apuntes, su teoría, y acá lo vamos viendo. ¿Les parece?
Ok.
Bien, chicos, eso por un lado. En cuanto a teoría, la semana que viene mi idea sería ya cerrar pronouns, para luego avanzar con verbos. Después le voy a decir, sé que son la unidad 3 y 4, pero son, no son todas las unidades, eran partecitas. Después les voy a decir qué eran, para que ya empiecen a leer. La semana que viene cerramos pronouns, vemos esta práctica, seguramente les daré más práctica, ¿sí? Nos vamos a encontrar el jueves, de nuevo a las 11, para avanzar con teoría y hacer práctica. Y obviamente después nos veremos el viernes. De nuevo, theory and practice, ¿sí?
Ok.
Bien, chicos, ¿alguna pregunta? Después la semana que viene les digo bien qué puntos son de lo que era verbo, porque sé que es el capítulo 3 y 4, pero no me acuerdo bien exactamente qué. ¿Mm? ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Can I ask you a question as regards the exam? Ya que
Sí.
tenemos el drive abierto y el documento
Ajá.
ahí, because when I was reading it after giving the test, sorry, I had it out as regards the word residence. If
Sí.
I marked that it was well, that the case wasn't marked, and then I saw that it has of the city and of construction there. It would be the case, this one of the
Sí,
city.
tal cual is marked for case, and the type is of construction, and then the meaning, and then the function.
Ah, okay, great. That was
¿Sí?
my
¿Vos lo
doubt.
pusiste como marked o
No,
unmarked?
lo puse como unmarked y después me di
Ah, bueno,
cuenta.
ojo ahí, porque marked podía ser of
Yeah,
construction,
there were three
in
types.
genitive, or noun plus noun. ¿Mm?
Mhm. Great.
Bien, chicos, ¿alguna otra pregunta? ¿No? Bien, see you on Thursday at 11 p.m. 11 a.m., sorry. See, to discuss pronouns and to see the practice, the one you did.
Okay, awesome.
On
Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday. Next week we are going to meet on Thursday and Friday.
Great.
¿Eh?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Bien, bien, chicos. See you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You
Bye, you
too.
too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.